I'm Simon Horsey. I'm studying MA in Orchestration for films, games and television, and I've done it over 1 year full-time.
Cool. So where did you come from before that?
I'd been teaching music in international schools in the Middle East and in Spain.
Okay. What kind of? So is that secondary school level?
Secondary school, yeah. So from year 7 up to IB. But I had done, in some of those schools, you have to teach all the way through. So I'd been teaching all the way from reception.
Okay then. Okay. So why did you choose to embark on the MA then?
I've always been interested in media music and in orchestration. I come from a classical background.
Okay.
I'd done the cinematic orchestration course.
Yeah.
And I was most of the way through music for the media, and I'd seen that the MAs were starting. Certainly from a teaching perspective, even aside from wanting to learn how to do it if I wanted to become a professional in that field, obviously games, TV, movies are very relevant and becoming even more so to the students I was teaching. So I thought it would certainly help inform my teaching as well.
Yeah.
However, during the course of the course, I've really kind of got more into it and decided that that might be a direction that I want to move in now, in terms of actually doing it as a job rather than...
Sure. So have you been inspired then to move it further than just...
Yeah, absolutely. When I first came into the course, it was literally to help me learn more about orchestrating in a way that games and TV and video and things would be useful for my teaching.
Yeah.
But since having done the course, then I'm certainly inspired to move forward with it. Yeah.
Was there anything in particular that kind of changed your mind on that then?
I think one of the things is that I learned a lot about how to use the equipment that I had more effectively. I learned about what to buy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different sample libraries. There's a lot of different things out there, and having some guidance in this is good, then I could put that on my computer, and I realized when I was orchestrating things, actually it can sound more like it sounds in my head.
Yeah.
So certainly the technical aspect is something that I really didn't have to start with.
Yeah. So what kind of level were you at before you started?
I used Logic. I made backing tracks for school productions, and I thought, these are quite good, but it was mainly kind of bass, drums, piano, bit of strings on top, possibly some saxophone. So in terms of sequencing an entire orchestra, the only time I'd ever really done it was I was conducting a choir, and we were doing Vivaldi's Gloria. So I got the score and I made a whole track, but I was never really very happy with how it sounded. It was just that we didn't have an orchestra. I was in Saudi Arabia. It was all I could do. So from that perspective, really, I've learned so much.
Can you hear the difference then?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
If I go back even to things that I did in Unit 3 and 4 of the course, now when I go back to those, they sound massively different. And in fact, I'm going to go back and re-record them now. Yeah. So that I've got the sound of the end of the course, but with the composition that I did near the beginning.
That's really good. So that journey to get from that point, what was the workload kind of like to do that for you?
It was, in terms of the technical stuff, it was much heavier at the end. I think one of the things that I did was I focused a lot on the composition at the beginning. I kind of split my time 50-50. And so I'd get the brief, I'd spend half the time doing the composing, but then that was the bit that I was quite good at already. So what I should have been doing was spending much more time on the technical stuff. And when we got to module 3, which was the one where we got given a score and we had to realise it. So there was no composition. It was all going through, and it's in fact the score to Psycho. That really showed me how in depth and how much time it takes to do that. So I thought a little bit more after that and focused on the technical side a little bit more. I suppose I spent probably about 35 hours a week, like a normal working week, working on it. But I decided that I was going to stop work and only focus on the MA if I was doing it full time. So with all the reading and everything, especially at the beginning, in those first, getting up to speed in those first projects was fairly time consuming.
Fair enough. With but I suppose part of that journey as well is what feedback you must be getting given from your tutors and how that influences your orchestration and composition. What was your feedback like?
That was a massive influence from very simple things. Charles Fernandez, for instance, was very on me about the phrasing and dynamics and using double bar lines before time signatures as well. And so the different tutors, I think, have different focuses really that they pick up on, and that's been particularly useful, having so many different tutors. At the beginning I wondered about that, if it wouldn't be helpful to have the same person all the way through the course who got to know my work and the way that I worked. But having so many different people, Mark, I could write something that I think, he'll quite like this because I got a good mark for that before.
Yeah.
But then somebody different's marking it and they don't take any notice of that bit, and they focused on the fact that, I've doubled up the tuba and the bass trombone and I've done something that I shouldn't have done in this direction. So it really has made me think more broadly about the music as well, not kind of focus in on something that I think that particular tutor would give me a good mark for.
It's a lot closer to the real world as well, because if you do a pitch for a film, a blind pitch,
exactly.
You don't know what the director is.
It's not the same director, and you're likely to end up working for different directors. So I think from that perspective, it's really been helpful, and the feedback's been very good. I've been very happy with what I've had, and the way that, not only the way it's been presented, but the way that it's been practical.
Sure.
So for one piece, I'll have a bit of feedback that I can take over into the future pieces as well. So it's been very good in that perspective.
So you've been able to go back through from your first formative and take that on till your last assignment.
Yeah. Some of the things that I was told right at the very beginning, I'm still thinking about in my final piece that I'm working on now.
Okay. Well, I suppose the other big difference with our courses is the fact that it's online. And I know that you've been able to visit us today and visit us on open days and things like that. But how was the general experience of being remote?
I'm in the UK now, but when I started the course, I was living in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah.
So the videos and everything, it's been fine. Having the webinars, it's been great. There's a really good little Facebook community as well that we've got. So I feel that I've had interaction with the other students, and my slight issue sometimes was that the webinars for me were at 2:00 in the morning. So I used to go to bed, get up, watch the webinar, then go back to bed again.
Okay.
However, they're all recorded.
Yeah.
I could technically have just watched the recording, but it was always still worth it for me to get up in the morning and watch them, partly because of the quality of some of the people that you've had giving the webinars, and having a Q&A session, being able to ask those people questions that I have on my mind. It was worth getting up at that time in the morning, and ultimately I moved back to England for the last part of it, so that if I needed to come here, like I've wanted to come here today and get a little bit of extra advice on mixing, then I was in the vicinity and I could. Cool. But the webinars have been great. The videos are all very informative, and on the times that I've needed advice, I've just sent in an email.
Yeah.
And with the Facebook group and the webinars, you do still feel that you're part of a community. Mm-hmm. So I think, although we don't meet up that often, you still kind of feel that you're involved with a group of like-minded people.
Now you're about to embark on your final project, or have started, so to speak. How's that been going then?
Really well, actually. I can't imagine at the beginning of the course being able to sit down and work through what I've done.
Yeah.
In terms of the orchestration, in terms of getting it into Sibelius and having it look good on the page, in terms of getting it into Logic and having it sound not exactly like a real orchestra, but certainly moving in that direction.
Yeah.
And now just obviously here today putting the last pieces in the puzzle in terms of using EQ and compression and things, just to put a little bit of sheen on the top.
Yeah. Well, what advice would you give to somebody who's starting the whole degree, I suppose?
If you're doing orchestration, think very carefully about where your strengths lie and minimize that area. So if, for instance, you're used to orchestrating something already and you've orchestrated things a lot in the past, then really focus on using your DAW and getting the best sound out of it that you possibly can. If you're a kind of real techie person and you can put stuff in left, right and centre very easily, then that's fine. You can do that bit. Really try and focus in on the stuff that you can't do. And also I've tried to pick projects all the way through that require different things from me. So sometimes I went for the kind of like the big orchestra. Sometimes I went for the small orchestra, so that I get a lot of feedback in a lot of different styles. Because having access to that level of feedback from those type of people, I want that. Obviously, I want to have that for his feedback for a big orchestra, his feedback for a very small group, his feedback for something in the style of Debussy, his feedback for something that's much more modern and atonal. So I've tried to really write in a lot of different styles all the way through, and in fact I'm continuing to do that into my final project as well, because this will be my last chance to get that feedback in those different styles. And yes, obviously we all want to get a good mark and we're all chasing distinctions all the time, but equally I think that it is a learning experience, and so you need to look at where you're weaker and just jump off the deep end and say, okay, I'm going to do that, I'm going to try that thing, and I might only end up with a pass or a merit, but the feedback will be massively important. So don't just play to your strengths, really kind of try and work out where your weaknesses are and use the course and the feedback to improve upon those.
One of the things that's quite common, especially in music education, are kind of little gaps in knowledges where different curriculums don't line up, and then when you get to a higher level, some people have this certain knowledge and some people don't. So when you got here, you said your technology knowledge wasn't quite up to scratch with some other people's, but how did you find the community being able to handle that with each other? Because I know there's student-led webinars.
It's been fantastic. A lot of the things that I've learned, I haven't only learned on the course, I've learned from posting a question in a Facebook forum or in the Facebook group, the student Facebook group. And the feedback is just so ridiculously fast from people as well. You can put a question there and 20 minutes later, somebody will have put a big long answer there about exactly what I need to do, or quite often what I need to buy. So actually the student feedback as well and the student support has been really great, almost maybe even more in a sense than if we all lived kind of down the road from each other. And I think because we don't, and we're all in the Facebook group, I think there's always a different level of support. We went to the Basque conference, as you know, on last Saturday, and people, I've seen these people twice, once in January here, once in September here, and chatted on Facebook. But when we met up in London, it was as though we'd all been together for the whole year almost, all in a traditional university setting. So although there is that potentially that worry that you're going to not have that community, that sense of community with other students, you still get it.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Simon.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well. Thank you.